right, welcome everybody. I'm Diane Conklin with Queer Profits Podcast and Complete Marketing Systems and all sorts of other things that we'll be talking about today. Just a reminder, here at Queer Profits, we are about three things: inclusion, community, and growth. Those are sort of the three pillars of what we do. And I'm really serious about the inclusion part and the community part and the growth part. Since we have three pillars, I guess that makes sense, right? Gotta have a little fun, right? So I'm excited to introduce to you, actually to have her introduce Mari Selby, who is somebody that I did some work with on a client project about a year ago. And it's pretty amazing, some of the things that she's doing. So I wanted to share what she's doing with you and see if anybody out there is potentially needing her services. And so without further ado, I am going to turn it over to Mari and let her introduce herself.
Thanks, Diane. Thank you for having me on your podcast. I really appreciate it. And it's never, I should say, talking about myself free-form is always a challenge, without having a script that's right there, without having questions. So I always do better with that, but I'll do my best.
We'll do questions. I just want you to tell them who you are and what you do.
Okay. I do marketing and promotion primarily for authors. I also do book shepherding, ghostwriting, copywriting, you name it. I've had to reinvent myself. I started doing this business in 1996. So things have changed so much since then. I like doing different things. It keeps things fresh, green, exciting. So right now I've been working with someone who I'm going to be doing a ghostwriting project for. She's a Russian woman whose husband was an embezzler. So yeah, right. Ex-husband is an embezzler from a Russian oligarch. So I have all these different things. I'm also working with an author who has, a wonderful spiritual book that combines art and wisdom. If I don't have a lot of things going on, if I don't have a lot of interesting things happening, life is not anywhere near as fun. So I like to do different things.
What do you do primarily for your authors? Is it ghostwriting or is it more on the PR and getting them?
Mostly it's on the PR, mostly it's doing that, which is, everything from securing radio interviews to reviews. I just got, I got one of my authors from last year. I got him a Kirkus review. That Kirkus review led to him being one of the top best books of the year for Kirkus.
Wow.
So I like it when I do something and it winds up leading to something else. That's how publicity works. It creates its own momentum. So yeah, and so but it depends upon what's thrown at me. I don't do a lot of personal advertising or promotion for myself. I just don't do that. I kind of have the faith that things are going to come my way, and they have always come my way, and that's 20 some years. So I just talked to this woman about she's written a couple of books and is working on a third one and may have me help her part ghostwrite it, part promote it. And she's all about increasing wealth for women and financial independence, so yeah, so and I may be helping her with creating a signature speech so that she feels like she has something authentic to present and feels confident with that.
Great. Let's talk, you said a minute ago, a key word I want to talk a little bit about, because you, like me, have been in business for quite a long time. So this whole idea of reinventing yourself, right?
Yes.
So how many times in the 20 plus years you've been in business have you reinvented yourself?
Well, I never set out to do things like ghostwriting or book shepherding. I set out that I was just going to, because where I came from is I worked for a small publisher and did all of their promotion. And increased their sales by, 150%, in the year that or plus that I worked for them. That's where I got my training. But that was all strictly doing publicity, radio shows, reviews. I did do some marketing for them, direct marketing. But so from there, I had the skills to be able to do that for authors. And that's where I was for so many years. And then it was like, okay, things are shifting. People are getting these, one of my pet peeves, I have to plug that for a second. And partly why I've reinvented myself is these packages that people could buy, to market and promote themselves. Okay, here's this package. You pay, $2,000 and we'll send out your book to, 25 or 100, whatever many, review sites. Doesn't matter what your book is about. Let's say your book is about cooking. Well, we'll send it to the science shows or, whatever. You know what I mean.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Those kind of packages drive me crazy. And then people come to me and they're frustrated because they didn't get anything that made any sense.
Right.
It's like, okay. So trying to compete with that kind of packaging system, being, because my specialty is hands-on, individual design, individual programs, doing things that work for people and what their actual message is. So I had to reinvent myself as a ghostwriter. I had to reinvent myself as a book shepherd. I had to learn all of these new skills. I had to learn how to do social media because when I started 20 some years ago, social media, what was that? AOL?
Right, no such thing.
Yeah. So, I had to reinvent, as things changed, I had to keep up to date and learn new things, learn how to create websites for people. And I can't tell you how many times I've had to reinvent it, starting from this one place to where I am now, and having all these different things coming at my way.
Yeah.
So
it's almost constant, wouldn't you say? I mean, as a business person,
yes.
If you're not reinventing yourself on a relatively regular basis, it's almost like you're what I say OOB, right? You're going to be out of business pretty soon.
Yeah, exactly. But, and it is also about, keeping up to date with, what are the trends, what's going on. And there's so many things that I can't keep up with. I mean, who knows what TikTok is? I mean, really.
And now we have Clubhouse to add to the to the mix.
So there's so many different things that come along here that, do this, do that, and it's like I tried to keep the focus. I had an author recently, it's one of those my favorite sayings. He didn't know what he didn't know, right?
Right. And some of them don't know that they don't know, which makes it even worse.
Exactly. And he was very much in that place. And I had to I had to really work with him to get him set him straight, that I work for the book, whatever is going on for the book, I don't work for you,
right.
So that's always an interesting project too. Yeah. It's like to clarify, what is my job? My job isn't what you think it's going to be.
Right. So, we're sort of still in the, who knows if we're in the middle of, at the end of where we are, with the pandemic stuff. Has that, have you found that you've had to reinvent yourself again now? Because I would guess that,
yep.
While people are reading and that sort of thing, there may be some authors out there that think it's a bad time to write a book.
I think it is that is true, but I also think that, what I'm finding is I'm doing a lot more things like Facebook Live, and Zoom webinars, and, you taking advantage of the virtual programs that are out there. So it's not the same. I can't go to like a bookstore and say, will you have this person featured and have them speak there? Because that's not happening, So yeah, there is a lot of reinventing when it comes to that. People are, but I think that at this point it's shifted. When the pandemic first came on, People were in such shock. But now I think it's shifted again. I see people are writing books more. I see that they're much more active for what they were than what they were last year. Last year it was like, the deer in the headlights effect, right? And now I see people are stepping out. They want to do more. It's like they've become comfortable in the virtual world.
Right, right. Interesting how sometimes we have to be forced into these things that work and things that don't work and that sort of thing. So,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
I want to shift gears just for a minute and talk a little bit about, so, you've been in a long-term relationship. You are in a long-term relationship. So how does being in a long-term relationship affect you as you're owning your own business?
Well, I'm very blessed. My wife has a great systematic mind. So she's helped me a lot with developing systems.
Well, that's nice.
Yes, and she's also great. I'm a great creative writer, copywriter, and if I didn't have her as an editor, I don't know what I would do. So she's definitely been a part of this business. She's definitely been an important part of this business. And she was the one who, this is, kind of a funny story. I was working for that publisher and I had just set them up with a deal of selling 4,000 books to a department store. But in order to make that deal happen, they had to lower their price point by 50 cents, and they wouldn't. I was so frustrated with them that I said, I have to start looking for work elsewhere. And so during my lunch break, I worked on my resume. And that showed up on his computer, and he fired me that day.
Oh, wow.
So I came home, when I came home and he called me up, and my wife was the one who said, great, great, go for it. You can do this. You've learned enough. You can go ahead and create this business. You can do this. I'll help you.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. So you're in one of those marriages and relationships where you have full support of.
Yes.
Wow,
yes.
That's great.
Yes.
That's terrific. Now, and she has her own thing or her own job. Yes. So it's not like your partner's in the business, right?
No, she's a fine artist and does, virtual gallery tours, creates paintings by commission, and she used to show a lot out there, of course, in the world, but not now. And has several projects that are her own projects. So, she has her thing, I have my thing, she helps me with my thing, I help her with her thing. So yeah, we have a very easy and compatible partnership in that way.
Right. That's great. That's great. So what's the biggest challenge that you have in your business right now?
Biggest challenge. I think it's, because there's so much, I have 4 or 5 different clients coming at me right now, and I don't like taking on that many, because I have other things that I want to do too. I think it's focus, what is finding a focus for myself, because I can do all of these things. And because I can do all of these things, having a focus would help. But, there's always the point of, if I do that, then I'm going to miss out on this,
right.
I'm going to miss out on that, or I won't have this client or whatever. So I think the biggest challenge is focus.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have that. I think it comes down to exactly what you said, right? Where sometimes there's this fear of, well, if I focus too much, I'm going to lose this part of my business. When in fact, what I found is what happens is, as you focus in, the more you focus in, it doesn't necessarily mean that these sort of peripheral clients aren't still going to come. But what happens is your message becomes so focused that you get more of those ideal clients that you want because they see you, right? Because you're there,
Great
because
point.
they hear
Great
your
point.
message.
Great point. I love that.
Yeah,
I love that. Thank you.
So yeah, so you deal with authors inside of the queer community as well as outside, correct?
Yes. Yes.
So if somebody wanted to talk to you about publicity, PR, ghostwriting, writing a book, how would they get in touch with you?
They can reach me through, well, the easiest place, of course, is I'm on Facebook all the time, but, and that's Maria Selby, but they can find my website at selbyinc.com. They can call me, 540-851-0864.
Do it one more time, a little slower.
Okay, 540-851-0864.
There we go. I bet they could even write it down that time. So, Marty, tell me what the best business advice you ever either that you ever got or that you'd like to give to the people that are listening today.
Well, I love that question. My first mentor was this woman, Peggy Keller, who worked in New York and in Random House, was, a very high-powered PR person there, and then wound up shifting and moving to the left coast and developed her own PR company. Her favorite phrase was, I may be a bitch, but I get a lot done.
And so tell me what that means for you. Like, why does that mean so much to you?
Well, I just recently, another client, it was constant pushback, of everything that I was trying to guide him to do, to be able to promote his books. Constant pushback, and that's what he basically told me, is that I was a bitch, but meanwhile, I was getting a lot done.
Right.
Because it was interesting conversation I had. What's the difference between being assertive and being aggressive?
Mm.
And for women, especially strong women like us, if we're assertive, we're told we're aggressive.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And
doing the exact same thing would get a very different response most of the time. So
yeah. And it's not that I don't mind being aggressive if I feel like that's what's called for, but most of the time what I am is I'm being assertive.
Yeah.
I know my business, I know what I'm doing, I know, I do know really the path that might be best for some author and their books. I do know that, so because I do know that, and I'm assertive about making that path happen, that's when, I may be called a bitch, but I get a lot done, right?
I often say that, busy is a drug that way too many people are addicted to these days. And there's a big difference between being busy and being productive. Quite frankly, I'll take productive, excuse me, any day of the week, as opposed to busy, right? Because think about it. You ask somebody, a business owner, how you doing? Oh, I'm busy. Okay, doing what? And if you ask that question, what are you busy doing? They usually answer you. There's no well, I'm working on my book, or well, I'm doing a launch, or I have an event coming up. The thing is, they'll say, well, I'm just busy. Like, okay, what did you accomplish this week? Right? What did you complete today?
Right. So that goes along with that. That phrase goes along with it. I say, I get a lot done. And I get a lot done because I'm focused on being productive.
And what's best for your client.
Yes. So whether that's, setting up speaking engagements for them, or, doing whatever, but it is about setting up events, whatever it is about, the focus is, I can get a lot done if you let me. Right.
Isn't it interesting? People hire you for your expertise, and then they don't want you to do what what you think is best to do. You get that pushback thing. Yeah.
I got so much pushback from this client. I wound up having to let him go because I can't, spending so much time with that pushback meant that I couldn't be as productive as I wanted to be.
Yeah.
So I like your three things, community, inclusion, and growth. And I used to have, and that's the other business advice, that I used to have this woman. She and I it was wonderful. We had a great relationship. We met at a international New Age trade show in Denver and hit it off. We just looked at one another and went, I know you. And we hit it off. And from that moment on, we would be able to share stories about clients, be able to help each other figure out how to go, work things through. And she's the one who helped me develop my contracts that I have now with my clients. And I'd say that's the biggest advice I would suggest people have, is have a contract that is as clearly delineates what you're going to be doing and what they can expect from you.
Yeah.
So she helped me do that. But back to the community, from her, I wound up passing her along to some other people, and she wound up passing me along to some other people. And so we had this extended network, of being able to talk about our business. And it was wonderful having that kind of community. I missed that. She died, she developed cancer and died very suddenly.
Oh, wow.
And I still miss her. And it's been, I don't know how many years since then. So, community is really important. If I could find other people to share like I did with her, it would be wonderful.
Yeah. Well, that's a big part of what I'm trying to do with Queer Profits, is especially in the Facebook group, is create this feeling of community, this feeling of inclusion where, whether no matter what your skin color is, no matter what your religion is, no matter, the whole gamut of LGBTQ plus allies. I mean, I want people to have a place where, we can go for business stuff. We can talk about, political things, whatever, the issues are. And, sometimes we're going to agree to disagree. And I think that's something that we've lost in our world, and certainly in the United States right now, is this ability to say, I don't agree with you, but I still love you, right? I don't agree with your point of view or your point to view. And yes, we can still coexist because we have these commonalities. And so that's a big part of what I want to do, inside of this community. So
good for you. Good for you.
Yeah.
Did you hear, speaking of that, I thought it was really interesting, completely different segue. Did you see the Jeep ad that Bruce Springsteen did?
Yes.
Wasn't that beautiful?
Yeah, it was. It really was.
And that's exactly what you're talking about coming together in the middle and, seeing what we have to offer together rather than, going like this with each other.
Yeah, it's a pretty boring existence if everybody around me agrees with me. If everybody around me has the same ideas, then we're all redundant, right? And a lot of us are unnecessary, in my opinion, So with that being said, Mary, tell me what you think the biggest issue is facing our community right now, or the biggest thing challenge thing that we need to address and deal with.
Well, I think, personally, I think that, we're all right now recovering from being in shock. And personally, I'm a poet. I've had 2 poetry books published, and I couldn't write a poem my life needed to be saved by it especially in the last year, because I was frozen in such shock and in such anxiety. So I think coming out of that, out of that anxiety, out of that shock, it's kind of like, okay, now we can, instead of being either fighting all the time, now we can sort of say, okay, who are we? What are we doing? What are our goals? Where are we headed? We can actually say that, because the political climate is so different.
Yeah. And do you think that we're more isolated in the queer community, especially when things like this happen, just by virtue of the fact that, we are a marginalized community. We are some of us aren't, we're not all, as with any population, we're not all coupled or whatever. Do you think that isolation is worse for us?
I do. I absolutely do, because how I suddenly, I came out in and there were bars, there were women's events, there were all kinds of things that I could go to and participate in, and now we've, especially with this pandemic, it's really becoming, it's all virtual. It's like, how do we find each other? How do we make connection?
Yeah.
How do we celebrate with each other? And that celebration is so much a part of what our culture is about.
Yeah.
How do we do that?
That's a great point. Yeah, that's a great point.
So, so yes, I do think that the isolation, I do think that the anxiety, I think it's, that we're coming out of that going, where are we? Who are we? Where are we going? And I think we have some time now to be able to do that.
Yeah. It's to be able to breathe and figure things out. Yeah, I agree. Well, this has been a ton of fun, and certainly
Yes.
a lot of great information and sharing, and certainly a bit of a different perspective as far as the publicity and PR and all the different things that you do go. So so you guys have Mari's contact information. She is pretty easy to find. If you're looking for somebody, if you're writing a book, or if you're looking for PR publicity, I can definitely vouch for the fact that she's great at what she does. And I've worked a couple of clients with her and referred some folks to her. So she's definitely a great resource for our community and for anyone else if you have a referral for her. So thank you guys for joining us. Thank you for listening. This is Queer Profits Podcast. Again, if you're looking for us, you can check us out on Facebook. There's a Queer Profits Podcast page. There's also a group called Queer Profits where we are talking about inclusion. We're talking about business. We're talking about, how to make more profits in your businesses. So that's a great place. You can also go to queerprofits.com where you can find the special report that I have for you, the 3 keys to growing your business. And you can get that in audio, video, or in written format. So thanks again. We'll catch you guys next time. I'm Diane Conklin with Queer Profits. Make it a great day.
Thanks, Diane.
Thank you, Mari.